Hello everyone! Today's video is going to be an art supplies gift guide, so whether you're having to buy something for an artist or maybe need some ideas for yourself, for Christmas, birthdays, whatever, hopefully this video will be helpful for you. I've included some of my all-time favorite products for different levels of artists and different price points. There are some even books included. There are some smaller gifts that would be great for stocking stuffer ideas. There's lots of stuff. So let's get straight into all the materials. The first thing we're going to talk about is what I like to call the Watercolor Starter Kit. This would be great for someone just starting out with watercolor, or someone that has used watercolor but maybe needs to upgrade their materials to something a bit better. This will give them everything they need to make a complete watercolor painting. The first part of the kit is the paint itself. There are obviously lots of different sets of watercolor paint, but here are three of my favorites. The first is definitely the most inexpensive option. It's the Koh-i-Noor watercolor wheel. It comes with 24 different colors and even has the top that converts into a paint palette. The next step up from that are these Koi Watercolor Sets. These ones are great for traveling. As you can see, it also comes with a paint palette. All of the sets also come with their own water brush. This one is the 24 half pan color set, but it also comes in 12, 18, and 30 half pan colors. The third, and definitely my personal favorite, are the Winsor Newton Cotman sets. This is definitely the palette to buy someone if you want them to be able to grow with it. As you can see, mine is very well loved. It's still one of the main palettes that I use all of the time. This is the largest pan set, but the Cotman watercolor sets come in many iterations, from 8 half pans all the way up to 48. The next part of the kit is the watercolor paper. My two recommendations are the Canson XL Watercolor Paper and the Fabriano Studio Watercolor Paper. These are both cold pressed watercolor papers, which is the most common type of watercolor paper. Obviously watercolor paper comes in many different sizes, but I would recommend going with something like 9x12. You could of course substitute the pads of paper with something like a hardbound watercolor journal. When you're using sheets of watercolor paper, you should be taping down the edges onto a hard surface like a Masonite board to stop the paper from warping more heavily. Make sure to buy a Masonite board that is slightly larger than the watercolor paper you're buying for the kit. So if you're buying 9x12 paper, see if you can get an 11x14 board. The next part of the kit is, of course, painter's tape to tape down the paper to the Masonite board. You could use masking tape, but I find that blue painter's tape has less of a chance of ripping up the paper edges. The next part of the starter kit is brushes. I recommend these Royal & Langnickel soft grip brushes. They're inexpensive and they come in various sets, but they work great. You could, of course, also buy a water brush. A couple of things that you could also include in the starter kit if you wanted would be an extra paint palette. I know all the kits that I showed came with palettes already, but a second palette is never a bad idea. Another thing would be a designated water container for paint. Most of them are collapsible, which is great if you want to travel with your watercolor paint. The next two items would be great for someone who already has the basics. These are the Finetec metallic watercolor sets. These are some of the brightest and most highly pigmented metallic watercolors I've ever seen. They're great to use on various types of paintings to add some extra flair. These ones are also often used as calligraphy inks. These are just two of the sets of the very many that Finetec makes. The next item would also be for someone a bit more experienced and is looking at upgrading their materials, and that is ceramic paint palettes. These are definitely something that you'd have for a very long time but wouldn't necessarily want to buy for yourself. Because they're ceramic, they're of course quite heavy and feel very nice. These two particular ones are more for watercolor paint because they have the paint wells. But if you had someone that was more into acrylic paint, you could of course buy them a very nice, normal, typical artist palette. The next item is an easel. There are of course many different types of easels, but I'm showing off this particular one because it's great for a lot of different types of mediums. This one is of course a tabletop easel, which means it can be very easily sat on a desk. It also, unlike most stereotypical artist easels, has a back, which means you can work on single sheets of paper and not just rigid things like canvases. I used to always prop this easel on my bed and work on drawings. It's not that heavy and folds down fairly flat. Next is the Liquitex Basics Acrylic Paint Sets. They are of course normally packaged much neater than what this looks like, but this is a set that I've had for a couple of years. It makes a great starter set for someone just starting out in acrylic paint because you get lots of different colors. These sets also come in various sizes. You could also turn the Basics paint set into more of an acrylic starter kit with these Basics brushes. They work great and also come in lots of different types. You could also pair these with some canvas boards or a pack of canvases so you have everything you need to make an acrylic painting. As for colored pencil sets, the Prismacolor Premier colored pencils are by far my choice. They also come in many different color set sizes, with the largest being 150. The other bonus to the Prismacolor sets is that if the person runs out of one pencil, they can very easily just buy that single pencil instead of having to go out and buy an entire new set. Buying a nice pencil case to house all of the colored pencils would also make a great addition to this gift. If you wanted to turn the colored pencils into a gift set, these are two of my favorite papers to use with those pencils. They are the Strathmore tone papers in gray and tan. These will both really make the Prismacolor colors pop. Plus, it is a different type of paper than your normal boring white. If you are buying someone a colored penciled set, you might want to look into getting this Mitsubishi KH20 pencil sharpener. It is quite possibly the best pencil sharpener in the world and definitely sharpens colored pencils like a dream. Another really cool gift option are these FW acrylic ink sets. Each set comes with 6 different colored inks, and there are lots of different color sets to choose from. Next, let's talk about some smaller, more stocking stuffer-like gifts. First are these PenTell Graph Gear mechanical pencils. These would definitely be for someone a little bit older and someone that appreciates nice art supplies. They are extremely well made and quite weighted, so they feel great to draw with. They also have this cool function that by opening the clip it will retract the lead. They come in various lead sizes with different color schemes to be able to easily tell them apart. Next is the PenTell brush pen. It's fairly self-explanatory, but this is a great brush pen that has been artists' favorites for quite a while now. If you've been on my channel for a while, you would have already heard me talk about this Tombow Mono Zero eraser. But it's an extremely precise eraser that's quite different and someone probably doesn't already have it. The eraser pen comes with refill erasers, but you can also buy the refill separately. Another classic is the Smudge Guard. This is great for stopping smudging with pencil art, but also works great doing digital art on tablets. It completely cuts down the friction on the screen while you're drawing. This particular one is a 2-finger glove, but they also come 1 finger. I always get lots of questions about this glove when I show it on my channel, so I figured I better include it in this gift guide. Next are these smaller fine line marker sets. If you're buying for someone who likes more ink-based artwork, always having more markers is never a bad idea. This Copic Multiliner set has 4 markers, where the Prismacolor one has 5 in various sizes. And last but not least, let's talk about books. Books can make great gifts because not only can they work as a resource, they can also be great inspiration. Let's start with more resource-type books. These first 2 are the Art Fundamentals series by 3D Total Publishing. As the title suggests, these books are great at teaching the fundamentals, everything from perspective to breaking down shapes. This next book would be great for someone who's interested in a lot of different art mediums. Not only does it have techniques, it also goes into a lot of different information about art materials themselves. This one is definitely one of my favorites to look through. The next one is definitely strictly a resource, but it's a very helpful one. As the title suggests, this has entirely color recipes. Everything from acrylic paint to oil paint to watercolors. This next book is also very much a resource. It's Anatomy for the Artist. This is very helpful for people interested in drawing people. It's also really cool because it has these translucent sections that show you the interior bones and muscle structures and all of that for different parts of the body. Just be warned that because this is an anatomy book, it does have some nudity in it. These next ones are resources, but they are also very inspiration heavy. It's the Digital Painting Techniques series. Obviously, these ones would be more for digital artists, but they're also really interesting to look at even if you're more a traditional artist. This next one is entirely inspirational. It's a personal favorite of mine. It's Illustration Now Portraits. It's one of my favorites because you can really see how many different ways there are to draw people. Another idea as far as inspirational books go is all of the art and making of books from movies and video games. And that's everything. Hopefully this video gave you some gift ideas. As always, the products that I mentioned in the video will be listed very specifically in the description box in the order that they were shown in the video. But yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.